What I really love about this drone, other than flying it, of course, is the battery life. The battery life's incredible. The results on this tiny little drone are actually pretty impressive. This is the Potensic Atom, and it shoots 4K 30 frames per second, and the drone costs under $300 now. Now, first and foremost, Potensic did send me this drone free of charge. I am not required to give a good review, and they have really no input on what I say because this channel will always be forever unfiltered. They did send me the Fly More kit, which costs about $100 and something more than the drone itself, but I do think if you're gonna pick up a drone, this is definitely worth it. In the case, you get the drone itself, you get the controller, you get the charging cable that goes into the wall, plus USB-A to USB-C cable. You get a USB-C to C cable for your phone to fly it, and you also get a USB-C to Lightning cable. Also in the Fly More kit, you have 2 sets of extra propeller blades. You have additional screws for the propeller blades. You have a little screwdriver kit, and you have all of the instructions that you may or may not need with the drone. In the Fly More kit, you also get 2 additional batteries in a pretty darn cool battery case that plugs into the wall via DC input. You also, on the side, have a USB-A out, which you can use to charge the included controller with the cable. Now, what's also pretty neat about these batteries is that they all have USB-C ports on the back side of them, which means that you can take them on the go with any standard USB battery bank and plug them in via USB-C. The controller itself is very comfortable in the hand and does expand to fit very large phones like my Pixel 8 Pro. No problem getting put in there. The antennas fold out, though I would be very careful with these as they do seem like they could use a little more reinforcement. I haven't had any issues with these, but I could see if you're not gentle with this, you could break an antenna. The control sticks feel fairly comfortable on my thumbs, though I would like to see the rubber that is around the edges of the controller also be applied to the top, as I think it would benefit. It just kind of digs into your thumbs a little bit, but we're just splitting hairs at this point. Your phone attaches into the controller itself by using a right angle USB-C or micro USB or right angle Lightning cable, and then directly attaches USB-C into the controller itself. To turn the controller on, simply just hold the button and 4 LED lights will begin to blink up and then settle at wherever your battery life percentage is. Each dot, I assume, is 25% battery. Now, when you first turn on the drone, you're gonna be stuck in a beginner mode, right? It's gonna restrict you to a radius of 30 meters and a height of 30 meters or 98 feet. If you turn that beginner mode off, because it's not really clear, because I didn't honestly read the instructions, I just kind of turned it on, then you can pretty much do whatever you want with this thing. Now, the speed settings are set initially to video, which is a very slow mode, allowing you to get very stable 4K video. In fact, the results on this tiny little drone are actually pretty impressive. So after that, you can bump it up to normal mode, and whenever you take off and get above a certain height, you can set it to sport, which is really cool to fly, and it's a very fast speed flight, and it doesn't do very well with video. Now, going through the menu system, the drone, when the signal is lost, it will give you a different couple choices. So you can have it return, you can have it land, or you can just have it hover, and then you can walk over toward it. Now, one of the cool things about this is you can set a minimum height altitude. So whenever you return the drone, it'll automatically raise up. Mine is 200 feet because where my house is it's in a kind of a divot, right? And I needed to raise up above the tree height so I can get a clear view and land back in my driveway. While you're in the settings, I do recommend you turn on silent and return, or else, it'll beep at you the whole way home, and that's not really something that I want to do. The next setting down in the menu system is altitude limit under virtual fence. Now, it does say 394 feet may be a local violation or regulation, so you do have to check it. I chose no limit. I don't plan to fly it any higher than that, and you can also set your distance limit as well. If you are having trouble with the drone for any reason, I do recommend you go through the calibration, which is on the next set of screens. You can do gimbal fine tuning after that. You can kind of adjust it, line it up, remote control calibration, and you can actually repair your drone if it's not taking off correctly or if it's not responding to your controls correctly. When you go down to the control setting, what I recommend immediately is you change the control stick mode to mode 2. That seems to be the most intuitive design. I had a lot of problems trying to fly it in the control mode 1. Now, as far as camera, here's where it gets interesting. You can set everything to auto, set it and forget it kind of thing, or else you can really dial down. You can go drill down the white balance. You can set a grid. You can format your SD card. You can enable telemetry data. You can add the Google or the GPS coordinates to the photos, metadata. There's a whole bunch of things that you can do with. And then down in the about section, it'll tell you the firmware version and the flight control version and all that fun stuff. Turning the drone on is fairly simple. On the bottom, there is a button with 4 LED indicators. You're just gonna press it once and then hold it until the green and red lights and white lights turn on the drone. It'll then recalibrate the gimbal and get everything set. You can also see the battery meter on the bottom as well. And if you are connected, the controller will respond with a connected prompt. Now from there, just kind of tilt the sticks inward on yourself and that will kind of kick the propellers off, knowing that you have control of this drone and you can fly from there. Now the interface is really simple. Whenever you take off for the first time, it's gonna try to collect some satellites. It's going to try to get satellites on it to try to read it and then put it into Google Maps, right? If you take off with 0, which you can do, you're limited to a certain height limit. So just take off, give it some time to float in the air, and then you should see 8 to 25 satellites at any given time on there. To the right of that, you can see the remote control, signal strength, and then to the right of that, you can see your battery as well as elevation and all the camera settings that you have in there. Now, once it's in the air and has acquired some GPS, you can do these really neat quick shots. And there's several of them to choose from, ranging from rocket to boomerang to a spiral to other ones that are pretty niche, right? You can also lock on and track targets like people or dogs or cars or whatever you're tracking to give you a really smooth motion. Another thing you could do is open up the GPS and actually tap on certain areas on the map to allow you to set waypoints, which I think is absolutely incredible. So all in all, I haven't had many problems with this thing. The only time I had to pair this device is when I accidentally set it to repair mode and I couldn't figure out how to get out of it. Honestly, I didn't read the instructions like I probably have said before. I just wanted to see how easy it was for a beginner with no experience whatsoever using a drone to fly the drone from start to finish. And I think it's pretty good. Let's talk about the great. Now, what I really love about this drone, other than flying it, of course, is the battery life. The battery life's incredible. It actually measures about 30 minutes each battery, which means I can fly this thing for an hour and a half with the Fly More kit. While I'm flying on the last couple batteries, I can keep another battery charged, allowing me to get another 20 minutes. So potentially you can get almost 2 hours out of these 3 batteries if you need to shoot something longer out in the field. I really like that. I love that they give you extra propeller blades. I've personally broken a couple just from learning how to fly the thing, and you're gonna be expected as you're a beginner to probably break a couple yourself. The way this whole system charges, right? You plug it into the wall, it goes in the battery pack, and then another wire pops into the controller. It's a great design, one cable to kind of rule them all, so to speak. Let's talk about some cons. And a couple of these might just be me being nitpicky, but right off the bat, I would really like to see collision avoidance systems. I've crashed this thing a couple times, I'm gonna be completely honest, and I'm glad they give you extra propeller blades in the system because that's been my only trouble with them. I've cracked a few blades, had to replace it. Not a real big issue, especially with the Fly More kit, as you get 2 sets of extra propeller blades. My second gripe, and I think this is actually fixed in the Atom version 2 that just came out, you are locked into a specific picture profile and you can't do a lot of editing and color correctment with this picture profile. In the new Atom, apparently you're able to shoot in log, which is a very flat color profile that you can then use to apply color grading or LUTs or kind of whatever you want. And I'm really glad that they added that in there because, in all honesty, it was kind of a struggle to get a color match between the Potensic Atom and the camera that I'm using right now, which was the A7C II by Sony. I think it's great that they're using a Sony sensor in their next gen Atom 2, and I'm really excited to hopefully check that out if I can get my hands on it. Lastly, the only real gripe I have with this thing is the claimed distance. Now this is important. So they're claiming a 6 kilometer distance, which converting that to feet, just for simplicity, it's about 10,000 feet. It's pretty far away, okay? Something like 1.3 miles or 1.4 miles or something like that. I'm only able to get about 2,000 to 2,500 feet out of this thing any time of the week, no matter where I am. And other people have said the same thing. The distance just isn't there. Is that a big deal? No. I think they should just say, hey, you're only going to get about 3,000 feet out of this thing. We'll call it even. And my local laws prohibit me from flying a drone to the point where I can't see it, right? I always have to keep a visual on the drone when I'm flying it. So being able to shoot this thing 1.5 miles away from me isn't really helping me. I can't see that far, so it's not a big deal. But Potensic really does need to claim that distance a little better, because everybody that I've seen review this thing has said the same exact thing. All in all, though, it is a fantastic drone to fly. I'm having a lot of fun with it. The battery life is spectacular. The camera is adequate and only gets better with the Atom 2, which you should definitely not waste your money on the Potensic 1, considering I think there's only a $30 difference at this point, and that's due to a rebate. I think this company is going places, and I'm really looking forward to hopefully working with them again for their next lineup here. So if you have any questions about my experience with the Potensic Atom, feel free to comment below and I'll be happy to answer your questions. I'm Jason with Tech Centered, and thank you so much for joining me.